Welcome back, friends. Fight IQ Picks. It's your boy Johnny P. We're back again, Macau, China. UFC Fight Night. We got Cameron Smotherman fighting Kai Asakura. It's a pretty good fight. Asakura came into the UFC not long ago. His first fight in the UFC, he just got sent to Killer's Row. He fought Pantoja for the belt, actually came right in. I thought there was a lot of hype around this guy because, like, just to come right in for the belt, it's pretty exciting. Smotherman, he's young. He's exciting too. He's got some power. He's got some hands. He's got, let's talk about it. All right. 3 fights ago, Smotherman, he fought Jake Hadley. He came in on short notice and he came in as a big dog. He was 4-1 dog and he really showed some heart. He showed some good boxing skills. He came out, he looked really good. He was really working the body hard. Hadley was having trouble, but little asterisk beside it, Hadley was preparing for a grappler. And I don't exactly know how short of notice, but it was definitely a quick fill-in fighter. And Smotherman stepped up to the plate, and he definitely looked good. He looked sharp. He worked the body hard. He definitely slowed Hadley down. And Hadley was down a point too because of fouls. I think he kicked Smotherman in the groin twice, and the ref took a point. But he definitely took 1 and 2, and he didn't put himself in a lot of danger in third, but it was a good fight for him. And he did almost get stopped in the last minute. He looked a little gassed. It was kind of a little bit worrisome, but not too much so. But then he came out again and he fought Siri Sydney. This was a tough matchup. He came in as a slight dog, plus 120, and Siri just picked him apart. He showed all aspects of the fight. He worked him on the feet. He worked him on the ground. Smotherman did start to come on late in the third, but it was just too little too late, and he really got outclassed here by City. And then he most recently came in, it was not long ago, against Ricky Simone, 11 months ago. So he has taken some time off, and hopefully he took some time off to work on this very thing. But in this fight, it shouldn't matter too much. But against Simone, he could not stop the takedown. And, some of the rounds, 1 and 2, they were close to 10-8s. He just couldn't stop the takedown, couldn't get up. I think it was 1 and done once he was down. And in the third, Simone started to gas a little, and, you could tell that Smotherman was starting to get pissed, but he was definitely down, and he got controlled 10 minutes of the first 9, or 9 minutes of the first 10, and then in the third, it was a little bit closer, but, after the second round, he got up and was rubbing noses, and it's like, you just got controlled for 9 minutes, and you're going to get up and rub noses after the bell? Now, come on, you need to start pointing on sooner, but that's just a young fighter there, getting into some head games with Simone, and it wasn't the greatest showing, but it's not the type of fight that he's going to run into here. Now on the other side, we had Asakura. Now, like I said it before, he came in hyped up. He came in fighting for the belt right away. He came from Ryzen. I watched a lot of his old fights. He did look good, but Ryzen's hard to tell how good these guys are, that they are, the competition level that they are fighting. But he did look good. He faced some adversity here, but he did get the belt over there, so he came right over. He fought Pantoja. And in the first round, I thought he looked good. He looked fast. He looked really fast, and he was giving Pantoja some trouble. And I looked, because the fight did get stopped in the second, I think. I looked, and he won the first round on all 3 judges' scorecards. Asakura did. Pantoja, yeah, he started to implement the takedown, and maybe that is part of his game, in working close and get those takedowns, and over time he wears on you, which he did, and he ended up getting a choke on him. He got his back, and Asakura couldn't do anything once Pantoja got down, but that's the case for a lot of guys with him. He's such an extreme grappler, and it's hard to hang with Pantoja on the ground. But so he lost there, and then that wasn't that long ago. That was a year and 5 months ago, and he came back again now against Tim Elliott 9 months ago. Kind of quick turnaround. Elliott was coming in older. He came in again, a big favorite. And Elliott's just a tough fight. He's a tough fight for anybody. He's awkward. He was doing a lot of weird stuff and weird hands. And again, Asakura still found some shots, found his range. Took round 1 for sure. It was close. Elliott got a takedown at the end of the 1, but he didn't do a lot with it because there wasn't a lot of time left. And in 2, Elliott went right for the takedown again. He had some trouble. Asakura has some trouble stopping takedowns. So, in the last 11 months, 9 months, and hopefully he's been working on that 9 months, not 11 months. We'll fix that. But this isn't that type of fight. He's coming in against Smotherman, and I just don't see the competition level being there. Asakura has fought Pantoja and Elliott, two tough fights, two tough grapplers. And Smotherman's competition level is just not there. He's coming off the contender. He fought Hadley, he fought City, and he fought Simone. And he showed he does have some holes in his game. I think Asakura can, be fine on the ground if he wants to go there, but I don't think he will. And I think he'll just be faster, and I think he'll outpoint Smotherman at range. I think it's a good play on Asakura here. You are laying some chalk with him. He is coming in at minus 300, but I think we can get off that big number. We can, these lines aren't out yet, so we're looking to play Asakura probably in a 2-fighter parlay. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to take two strong plays, put them together, and get off these big numbers. And it does work out quite a bit. Every once in a while we have a bad read. It's going to happen. You can't always be perfect. But I also think the over 2.5 is probably good. I think Kai by decision is probably good. I think Smotherman is durable enough. He's young enough. He stays at range, but he just doesn't. He's one-dimensional. He has very good boxing, and he does work the body well, but he doesn't throw kicks. He doesn't grapple. He doesn't mix in much else. Kai has a lot of weapons. He's very explosive, very versatile. He has great kicks. He uses them. He's long. He has flying knees. He has, great elbows, and inside the clinch, he's really good. And he's going to look to take advantage of Smotherman here on the beat. And it's the type of fight he's looking for. He came in against two tough grapplers, so it wasn't a great showing. And I think they want to give him a good showcase. He's in his home area. Smotherman's traveling across the world to get over here. And I haven't looked at what time these fights start, but yeah, it could be rough on Smotherman. Tapology, 93% for Asakura. And I really think we can get out this number by pairing him with another strong play, which we're going to talk about at the end of the show. Now, on to Alex Perez is fighting Sumadarji. Now, I love Sumadarji. He's got a great name. He's a great fighter. I love Alex Perez too. This is my favorite. This is one of my favorite fights on the card. This is a sleeper fight. And they're really going to showcase the flyweight division here. Sumadarji, his last 3 fights, he's had some mixed results. He fought Charles Johnson, and Charles Johnson is up and down. He's good. He looks good. He looks not so good. He looks good. He looks not so good. So, he's not a tough out for anybody. And Sumadarji, he fought him well, I thought. I definitely thought he got caught in the second a few times, and Charles was definitely pressing him and landed some big shots, but he showed durability. He almost got finished. He survived, showed good heart, and it was a good fight overall. I thought he ended up losing. He showed he has range and he can scramble well, and after being hurt too, to show the durability to come back from, I like it, But then he came in against Mitch Raposo. And Raposo, he's a good wrestler. He's a good kid. That's all he tried to do, though. It was completely one-dimensional. It was a close fight. Sumadarji was having some trouble getting off his striking, because that's all Raposo. Mitch just kept pressing for takedowns over and over again. And he didn't do a lot with any of them. And he was really surprised when he lost. And it's always surprising when, it's always funny when, because when I bet on these guys too, and I think, oh man, he did enough with the wrestling, but they don't, all these takedowns don't amount to much. And you can't expect to win when you just hold a guy down. He's getting up, he's landing some shots. You had a bloody nose, so there's some blood there. It's not a good look. And you're not doing anything other than landing takedowns. And this isn't a wrestling match. And that's kind of what Mitch thought here. He lost, Sumadarji, but he still held his composure. It wasn't a good fight for him. And he survived. He landed enough. And it was a close split decision win for him. But he came in there and got the job done. Then he fought Kevin Brojas. He picked him apart. At range, landed Brojas, I don't even think hit him once in the first round. Maybe once. Maybe he swung 3 shots, but it's pretty much the story of the whole fight. It was 30-27 across the board. Sumadarji looked great. And then most recently he fought Jesus Aguilar, who's fighting later on the card, and we'll talk about him too. But he just completely picked him apart too. Aguilar couldn't find him, couldn't touch him. And he's so long for the division, and he uses those kicks well, and he stayed at range. Aguilar couldn't, and once he did try to wrestle too, it didn't matter, because Sumadarji had better sweeps and was really long. And if you ever wrestled, long guys are really, really difficult to hold down when you're a shorter guy, and it's just hard to match up with Sumadarji when he's so good at range. Now let's get on to Perez. Perez, he's had some mixed results too, but he's fought a much, much, much tougher schedule than Sumadarji. His 3 fights ago or 4 fights ago, he fought Nikolai, Mateus Nikolai. He fought a very good fight, and Nikolai is very precise. He's a good striker, and he's got good grappling, so it's always hard. It's hard to figure, waiting for that takedown, or are you going to get your strikes out? But Perez showed very good, and he comes in, he bursts hard, he's very good with combinations. He works the body well. He lands good kicks, powerful kicks. And he ended up putting Nikolai to sleep. It was a really good showing. I think he got performance of the night there. He definitely did. But then he comes in against Teixeira Tyra, who just recently fought for the belt against Van. And it's not a good matchup for him. And he has gotten subbed quite a few times. Those are his weaknesses, definitely, when he faces another strong grappler. I mean, he's a good grappler himself, but he's not the best jiu-jitsu artist, it seems. So Tyra ended up getting him down, and he just took his back, Tyra was working some weird takedown transition on the back and ended up hurting Perez's knee. I don't know how bad the injury was. He was only out for about 5 months up to his next fight, but Perez definitely was screaming in some pain there after that fight, and it was a little rough to watch because, he was in some pain for sure. And then he comes in against Amabayev, who's pretty much the same fight as Tyra. Another grappler, just relentless takedowns over and over and over again. And Perez ended up getting stuck into a standing guillotine. I mean, it was a close fight, but another bad matchup for him. And then most recently, we actually took him in this fight against Charles Johnson. Again, Charles Johnson, not an easy out for anybody. And he really put it on Johnson early. Johnson had the worst haircut of all time. And he just made you want to, bet against him. But anyway, that's not why you should bet against someone because of their hair. But it's a good reason here because Charles Johnson has the worst hair in the UFC. But he really put it on Johnson. Once he had him hurt, he pressed him and kept hurting him until the fight was over. And it was a really good showing for Perez. So now that I tell you I love both guys, let's talk about it. Now, interesting matchup. The line opened at -110 both ways. Kind of how I saw it at first too. Well, in my mind, until I really watched Perez and really looked at his strength of schedule, that's going to, I'm giving it away. I'm leaning toward Perez. But these guys Sumadarji has been facing, Raposo, Boras, and Aguilar. They're on their way out of the UFC, most likely. And his hardest fight was Charles Johnson, and Charles Johnson almost finished him. So that's a little bit concerning, not to say A plus B equals, because UFC math never works like that. He beat Charles Johnson, so that means he's going to win. But I do think that's the case here. Perez, he's facing a little bit of the reach differential, but it's not as big. He is also tall for the division. It's only 2 inches here. Now, when Aguilar and Borjas were trying to fight him, we're talking about 7 inches in reach differential. But I think presses the pocket hard enough. He comes in hard with these combinations, and it's going to be an interesting fight because when Sumadarji is backing up, he's just not good. That's what we're talking about with Raposo. He was backing up the whole time in with Charles Johnson because they were pressing him. He looked really good when he had guys that just stood at range, but this is not what Perez is going to do. And he also stands on his front foot very heavy. And if Perez wants to, he can really, really work some leg kicks and really start to take over on Sumadarji here. But I could even see a finish from Perez, honestly, the way Charles Johnson almost finished him. But I think it could be a good spot to just take Perez straight here. Initially, like I said, the line opened at -110. The first day it came out, sharp money came in on Perez and it jumped it to -150, -160. It settled back down a little bit because, some from normal bettors will look at it and say, Perez has only won 2 of his last 5 and Sumadarji's won 3 straight and, almost beat Charles Johnson, or it was close, mixed, split or majority on Charles, but they might look at it like that. And I honestly think after I watched it that it should be closer to a -250, -300. I think Perez is that good and he's fought for the belt. His tough losses are killer's row. We're talking about Teixeira Tyra, Amabayev, who was on his way to fight for the belt. He knocked out Charles Johnson. Nikolai had only ever had 1 loss up until Perez knocked him out. He fought Figueiredo. He fought, it's just unbelievable his strength of schedule. And I really, really, really like Perez here. And I think we can get all over that -130 number. And I don't think that price is, I'm going to ride that up to minus 200 and, or I would be willing to lay up the, if he was minus 200, we'd be talking about putting him in again, maybe parlaying him with Asakura, but there's no need here. It's a nice line. It's already moved a little bit, so you see some sharps coming in, but let's take advantage of that minus 130 on Perez there. All right. And now we're going to kind of blend in that first fight with this fight. Now we got Ray Saruya. He's one of the youngest fighters in the UFC, or he was at some of the times he fought on the card, but he's like 23 right now. He's coming in. He fought for the road to the UFC. He won that, and I really thought it was a quick stoppage, but he was just utterly dominating the Jinsuyi. He was just destroying him. And then he came in a big favorite against Carlos Hernandez. Hernandez really showed the ability to scramble. And this was like a crazy fun fight to watch. If you're a grappling fan, I mean, and almost, if you didn't know grappling, you'd be like, what is going on here? Because these guys were tied up in pretzels. Like, it was crazy and it was really fun to watch. But Carlos Hernandez showed a really good scrambling ability, and Ray Saruya showed just unbelievable skill on the ground. And it was a great fun fight to watch. He definitely took the first 2 rounds. He looked a little tired in 3, but he came through and definitely took that fight. It was a really good showing. And then they decided to give him Joshua Van. And he showed really good heart. He was really getting tagged up by Van, and he couldn't get him down. I think he shot 24 takedowns and got like 3. And Joshua Van just really showed. Joshua Van at the time was unranked, and now the guy's the champion within a year because they fought literally 11 months ago. And hopefully Saruya here was working on some more of his stand-up, because that was definitely a hole there where he showed that he was having some trouble blending the stand-up with the wrestling. And he couldn't get off on Van. He really took some damage. He took some big shots, and Van ended up finishing him. And, it was a tough fight for him, really was. It's against the champ. What are you going to do? But he's fighting Jesus Aguilar, who we were talking about earlier, fought Sumadarji, and just looked absolutely terrible. And he looked good at times. Like 3 fights ago, he fought Stuart Nicol, and he missed weight, which is never good either. And that wasn't that long ago. But he took a ton of damage. He almost got stopped. He somehow got up and pulled guard and pulled guillotine. And what I've realized with Jesus Aguilar is that that's what he likes to do. He likes to jump guillotine. He likes to swing big looping hooks that never connect that I've seen. And he's got good heart. He likes to try to wrestle, but he's not very good on the ground either. So I don't really know why he tries to do that. But I don't really see him hanging around the UFC too much longer. I mean, it's the 125 division, so yeah, I mean, maybe there's a place for him. But he didn't look good, but he ended up he's got a good guillotine. That's one thing he does have. He's got a good heart. He's got good guillotine. Then he came out and fought Rafael Estevam. He was a plus 380 dog there, and it really showed. Estevam, I guess, had been away from the UFC for a while. He definitely dominated the first 2 rounds. Even the 3rd round, Aguilar had him tired. That was the only thing. Rafael showed some ring rust there and came out tired in the 3rd. But Aguilar still couldn't do much, and he did win the 3rd round, but Estevam was just trying to survive, and he knew he had the first 2 rounds in the bag. And then he fought Sumadarji, who we just talked about, and he never touched Sumadarji the whole fight, and they tried to wrestle, and still Sumadarji was better there too. So he was better all over except for the guillotine and the heart. He never really got off on trying the guillotine at all. So it was a tough fight for Jesus Aguilar against Sumadarji. Now, I think Ray, he's coming in at minus 370. He's young. This kid is good. And I think they don't want to keep this kid losing. They just gave him Joshua Van to see what he can do. And they didn't really know what they had in Joshua Van either, but now we're seeing that Joshua Van is really, really good, and he has really, really good takedown defense. So hopefully this kid was working his stand-up. Maybe he went to Thailand for the last year. I'm not really sure. I think let's just hope that's what he did. But Ray's coming in, big favorite. So why don't we take him and Kaya Sakura, put them together, and we get off that big number. 2 strong plays. I don't see any reason why they're not trying to showcase some of these Chinese and Japanese fighters while they're in Macau over there. It just makes sense. And I also think the over is probably good because Aguilar is durable. He shows good heart. It's going to be a wrestling match most likely. And let's just use him in the solid parlay piece. Let's not be crazy here. Let's not try a 10 leg. Let's not try a 5 leg or method of, method of victory. Again, I probably going to be decision, I think, but let's go with it. Let's go with all of them. We'll put out an official video on all the plays and what levels of plays later. Probably Wednesday or Thursday before the fight, because fights get pulled, lines move, we'll see what's up. All right. Thank you all for joining. Fight IQ Picks, Johnny P. See y'all again. Boom, boom, boom. Let's, get the knuckles with the outro or whatever.